Hello everyone, welcome to a very special episode of Death Valley Discoveries. Steve Hall with you back in Death Valley National Park, and I am back in the Owlshead Mountains with three friends, Jordan, Elyscia, and Matt, and we're going to be visiting a very special discovery that I made on November 21st, 2014, almost 10 years ago. And this canyon we're going to is so remote that it can't reasonably be done as a day hike. So that is why we are backpacking. We've just left our parking area on Warm Springs Road and we're heading up toward Wingate Wash. Many of you know that the Owlshead Mountains are one of my favorite places in Death Valley. So every time I'm here, I really appreciate and enjoy going through this area. It's really a special place. As we get started, I wanted to comment on the hiking terrain. I've always said that I consider Wingate Wash to have some of the best hiking terrain in the park. You can see the ground here, how easy the walking is. Now this is going to be true much of the route today. So we can really make good progress, fast progress, heading up into Wingate Wash, starting from Warm Springs Road. The hike from Warm Springs Road into Wingate Wash is relatively flat, but perhaps you can see the small hillside directly in front of us, and that is the first objective. So in kind of figuring out the route and making progress, there's two hillsides that you aim for. The first hillside is just ahead, and it provides a good landmark or way of guidance to be going in the right direction. We are just approaching the first hillside right now. See our backpacker Matt walking ahead, walking to the right around the hill. And here is the small hill. You can see it's not very high, just rises up enough above the wash to provide a good landmark. So it only took our group about 30 minutes to reach the first small hill, and this is over 1.5 miles to get to this spot. So you can see how good the terrain is, how fast progress can be made. And we're off to a great start here, heading for Wingate Wash. And I wanted to add also, I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but the main objective, the place we're going to, is a place which I call Wingate Slot Canyon. And with all my time in the Owlsheads spent exploring, hiking, this is my second favorite place that I have discovered out here, after only the Smoke Tree Slots. But I'll tell you a lot more about Wingate Slot Canyon when we get to it and when we hike through it. As we leave the first small hill behind, Wingate is starting to live up to its alternate name of Windgate. So a fairly decent wind is picked up, and it is a cold day here in January, so we'll definitely drop the temperatures a bit and make us appreciate the sunshine out today. Just ahead, we've almost reached the base of the second hill, which is our aim spot. And looks like that hill is about 3 miles from the starting point. Right now we're passing by the second hillside. So we've accomplished our first two objectives, to get to these hills. And now Wingate Wash is getting a lot more defined, as up ahead we'll be rounding a major bend, working our way in between the Owlsheads and the Panamints. We stopped here to take a look back. The view is just incredible looking out of Wingate Wash over toward Desert Hound Peak, Ashford Peak, Smith Mountain. And also, if you look here, banks have started to form along the wash. So the canyon is taking shape. This is a very wide canyon or wash. Doesn't narrow down much at all, but at least you can see the canyon or the wash defined between the two sides. I want to take a moment once again and highlight the hiking terrain here up Wingate Wash. As you can see, as we continue hiking forward at a very fast pace, excellent ground to walk on, make very quick progress. Wingate Wash is going to take a gentle bend here toward the right as hillsides are starting to form all around the wash. And here's another view looking back toward Smith Mountain, Ashford Peak. Really awesome view from Wingate Wash. Above us right here we have a hillside of boulders. Some very large ones have started rolling down. Right here, a couple metal pieces coming out of the wash, possibly some type of machinery that's washed down canyon and gotten buried right here. We're getting very close to the mine. We are just approaching the mine, the 478 mine, or the Wingate Wash mine. After hiking about 4.7 miles, we had a nice little break here at the 478 mine, and we're going to check the mine out more on our way back down tomorrow. As mentioned, on the way back down Wingate Wash tomorrow, we'll stop there at the 478 mine and take a closer look at some of the mining relics and stuff that's found around there. But also, we found an incredible little area with just a great bloom of desert golds. So I want to take a closer look at that. Pretty amazing for early January to find something like that. A couple interesting things about Wingate Wash. Wingate Wash was a historical route used to get in and out of Death Valley. Of course, the road that once went through here has been long closed and washed away. No traces of it really visible. And then also, Wingate Wash is kind of the dividing point between two mountain ranges. So over here we have the Owlshead Mountains, and then off to my right, the foothills of the Panamint Mountains. Looking back down Wingate Wash, wanted to show you this. Most canyons, this is nothing. Just another large boulder in the wash, but we don't have a lot of that here in Wingate Wash. Wash is mostly clear hiking, as you can see ahead. So that boulder kind of stands out, very large boulder in the middle of the wash. Also, Wingate Wash doesn't have much as far as canyon scenery, canyon walls. So passing by areas like this with these huge rock hillsides or canyon walls just rising above the wash is quite impressive. This is one of the tallest rocky hillsides passed by and on the right side of Wingate Wash. I've always liked this spot because there's some cool looking dry falls in the background. We need to get up there and explore it a little bit closer. The straightaway distances here in Wingate Wash can be vast. Looking ahead, you can see our hikers Elyscia and Jordan up ahead. Matt is about a mile ahead of us at this point. Passing by a few rock formations here on the left side of the canyon. There's some interesting reddish colored rock here at the base of this hillside on the right side of the canyon. Wingate Wash is definitely getting much more defined as a canyon the further we go up it. I love the different rock types you can see on display right here. On the left side, the rocks that are kind of jutting out into the canyon wash, kind of jagged and sharp, and then on the right side, just a smooth hillside wall. Same thing here looking on the opposite side of the canyon. Again, you have some dark rock jutting out into the wash, and then higher on the hillside, reddish colored rock with some formations coming out of the hillside. I tell you, I am smiling out here. I love the Wingate Wash area, but it's just so nice backpacking with such good terrain. We've only been backpacking for 3 hours and 15 minutes and we're almost to camp, where we can drop our stuff and set up camp. That's kind of unheard of. We're approaching the canyon junction, but one of the first things I've noticed, almost looks like near super bloom conditions up on the hills of Desert Gold. Can't wait to take a closer look at some of these flowers. Setting up camp for the evening after backpacking about 7 miles up Wingate Wash, and now we're at this major junction and we're going to begin heading up toward another special canyon, which I'll tell you about shortly. This is looking down Wingate Wash and up Wingate Wash. Wingate Slot Canyon is in that direction. We're going to be heading up this canyon right here to the south. This is the second time I'm hiking up this canyon right here. The first time I did it as a 3-day backpacking trip with Jordan, who's also on this trip, and my friend Tom. And we went all the way to Lost Lake and Owlshead BM Summit, and then all the way to Owlshead Mountains Road. So that was quite a 3-day journey. This main canyon we're hiking in now, which goes south out of Wingate Wash, does have some very interesting things. As mentioned, my group did take it one year to connect to Lost Lake and Owlshead BM, but just within this drainage there's some interesting side canyons Actually passing by right now a place with some short red slot narrows that I call Wingate Slot number 2. And then as we move up, we're going to be breaking off into a certain canyon, NEC Canyon. I'll explain more about that in a bit. But then beyond that is also Wingate Slot number 3, Wingate Slot number 4, and a place that is not really friendly to hikers called White Ring Hill Canyon. So yes, this is a very isolated area in the park, but it's also a very interesting place. A lot to see. Really vivid greenery up on this hillside. Really stands out with the coloring of the rock. So we're about halfway, a little over halfway to where we're going. Right adjacent to this rock wall is the turnoff into our canyon. See, we're turning out of that main larger canyon and into this, what looks like smaller but quite long canyon. Look at this huge balloon Elyscia picked up. We were hauling them out like crazy today. We've now made a little progress here into this canyon, so I should tell you a little bit about it. This canyon is known as Never Ending, Ever Changing Canyon, or the shortened form NEC Canyon. It was named in December of 2012 when two hikers, Charlie and Scott, went up and explored it and saw what was there. Charlie was the former wilderness coordinator here in Death Valley National Park, and he does hiking with his friend Scott, and they were the ones to come up here. But the reason they came up with that name is when they first started going through the canyon, they thought it was going to end quickly. So Charlie said he was going to call it 5-Minute Canyon because he thought that's as far as they would make it before they'd have to turn around with dry falls. But it kept going and going. So after the hike, Charlie suggested Never Ending and Scott suggested Ever Changing. So they merged the two, and that's when they came up with Never Ending, Ever Changing Canyon. And this is a really special place. I actually found out recently that this is basically the most remote canyon in Death Valley National Park. And I'll explain more about that a little later. As the name implies, this is a very lengthy canyon to hike. And it's hard to get to. From the nearest parking spot on Warm Springs Road to the canyon mouth is 8.5 miles one way. And that's just to pretty much start the hike. So this is not a day hiking canyon. We are just about to get into some of the interesting spots here in this canyon. So up ahead, we're gonna go through a narrow gateway into a colorful area. And there should be quite the array of colors to check out. Entering a neat little section of narrows here. Look at these rock walls. Very neat. Up ahead looks like we have a little dry fall. Look at the colors here. We are continuing to progress up canyon. This is a lengthy climb up this canyon. It's named Never Ending for a reason. But also there's a steep elevation grade. So a little bit slow going. But we're about to approach a very interesting point here. What's called the White Slot. Short area with white walls. Get ready to check this out. Up ahead is the canyon fork. So the left or eastern fork contains 4 major dry falls which need to be bypassed. And the right or western fork has 1 major dry fall. Both forks have some beautiful canyon scenery and are well worth seeing for those that have the ability to get into them. From right here, heading up the western fork of NEC Canyon, I have a great view of the most remote spot in Death Valley National Park. I'll tell you a little later about how that was determined, but check out the arrow here. You can see the most remote spot. Just walking through the gateway for the narrows of NEC Canyon's western fork. Probably my favorite highlight of this entire canyon coming up ahead. It's just up ahead. You can see the canyon is closing in and we're going to be going into the narrows. So here's the major dry fall in the Western Fork, right there. Our group is bypassing right around here. Here's a look at the major dry fall we just bypassed. Really cool spot of this canyon. And the narrows are not quite over yet. Fun continues here. And look at the rock of this dry fall. Just a small fall. Very neat rock though. And another one right here. Look at the colors and the rock. Passing through a really nice section of narrows right here. Check out this dry fall here. This is really neat. Such a nice spot in the narrows right here. Look at this. Look at this rock. So much to look at through here. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely love this spot in the narrows. We are just about out of these narrows. There's another nice looking dry fall. At the very top of the western fork of NEC Canyon, there is another fork, and you can actually see that on a topo map. So from there we stayed right and we're in this small drainage. But the plan is to attain the ridge and to get to what is known as the most remote spot in Death Valley National Park. That is our final objective for today. Great view right here as we are attaining the ridge, looking up this fork, and right here we're heading on up. Just got up to the ridge and have this outstanding view. Right in front there, that's what I call White Ring Hill. Looks really neat when viewed on satellite imagery from above. Now at the Panamints and our canyon right here that we just came out of and climbed up to the ridge. As we continue climbing the ridge, I just love this view of White Ring Hill and the Panamints all the way out to Badwater and Lake Manly. Here's a look at the terrain we're climbing up. This is actually the last climbing section to get to the most remote spot. It's steep, there's lots of boulders, it's challenging. We are just about to the most remote spot, just a short climb up this hillside, and we will be there. It is the early evening, sun is going down. But I'm excited to tell you that we are almost to the most remote spot in Death Valley National Park. Now, how was that determined? Well, there's a site called Peak Bagger, which did some measurements to determine the most remote spot, or the farthest distance in Death Valley that you can stand away from a road. And this spot was determined to be it. And then, not just relying on that, I decided to go ahead and do my own measurements to check it. And I found it to be accurate. After doing some research and studying and work on Google Earth, I was able to confirm that this is the most remote spot. We're just steps away now. Well, the four of us are here at the most remote spot in Death Valley National Park. We made it, guys. Woo!
Yay!
Well, there you have it. Here at the most remote spot in Death Valley National Park. It's sunset and we're going to begin the hike back down to camp. One final very special view here, looking out at Lost Lake from very close to the most remote spot. This is just an incredible way to end this day, having reached the most remote spot and then having this view at sunset, looking out an angle of Lost Lake I've never seen before. Truly special. Beautiful light right now. Look at this. Looking at the sunset here above the Panamints. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 here in the Owlshead Mountains. As you can see, we have found a spectacular bloom of desert gold wildflowers. Definitely super bloom status here at this area in the Owlshead Mountains. I just wanted to do a short recap of looking back at day 1. So you saw that we all made it to the most remote point, and then we hiked back to camp by flashlight. One thing we did not get to do on the way down, since it was dark, was to hike through the eastern fork of never-ending, ever-changing canyon. I've done that hike before though, and the western fork is my favorite, but the eastern fork is nice as well. It's just more challenging with 4 dry falls that had to be bypassed. So we did the best we could yesterday. Very happy with how things turned out. And yesterday we hiked 17.7 miles total. So it was 7 miles backpacking from Warm Springs Road to camp. And then we did another 10.7 to get up to the most remote point of Death Valley and back to camp. Very long day. But now I'm excited because we're gonna head and see something else, something very special. And that something very special is Wingate Slot Canyon, a place that I discovered on November 21st, 2014. Wingate Slot Canyon has at least 3 very special aspects to it that make it an incredible place to visit. First, it's a very long slot canyon. It runs about 1.5 miles in length. And then second, the conglomerate rock walls within the canyon completely change color and texture several different times. And then third, the narrows, while they're shallow most of the time, they completely enclose a hiker, and you really feel like you're inside the slot with very few wide open sections. So we're going to continue on now to the mouth of Wingate Slot Canyon. are continuing to the west up Wingate Wash toward the mouth of Wingate Slot Canyon, and what an incredible view of Sugarloaf Peak from right here. We have reached the mouth of Wingate Slot Canyon. Our last view there of Sugarloaf Peak before we get enclosed by the canyon. Looking down canyon, you can see Wingate Wash below. So we turned out of Wingate Wash and we're hiking up, generally to the south, into Wingate Slot Canyon. The narrows of Wingate Slot Canyon basically begin right here and will continue for about 1.5 miles. One thing I'm realizing walking back through here almost 10 years after my first visit when I discovered it, Wingate Slot Canyon just looks incredible and pictures cannot do it justice. Hopefully some of this filming I'm doing as I'm walking through is able to showcase it better than my still photographs from years ago. We finished up the canyon, climbed up the ridge above it, and this is the view looking back down Wingate Slot Canyon. Now we're gonna work our way around the ridge here. Looking off to my right here, you can see the two upper forks of Wingate Slot where they come to an end at the hillside. Here's our views, looking across at Sugarloaf Peak, the Panamint Mountains, down Wingate Slot Canyon, out towards central Death Valley, and on around to this side in the Owlsheads. See our group working our way down the other side of the ridge here. It's looking up in the general direction of Owlshead BM. As you can see, we are backpacking again. We're heading down Wingate Wash toward the 478 mine, the Wingate Wash mine. As we completed a little loop hike there of Wingate Slot Canyon. I think that was about 5.5 miles, and packed up camp, had some lunch, and started backpacking. So as the last part of this discovery video, I'm gonna show you a little bit of what can be found at the 478 mine and the surrounding area. This is the dugout shelter, part of the mining operations here. Go inside. Goes back a ways. Here's the view from all the way inside it. Backpacking down Wingate Wash, we arrived here at the 478 mine. You can see the benchmark right here. Let me zoom in on that. So this benchmark says 480 feet, but this is the 478 mine, or 478 mine. And as you probably figured out, it's named for the elevation of 478 feet. So let's check out the mine. We just passed by an old post, which was probably part of a gate here in the road. Of course, this used to be a 4-wheel drive road through here with mining activity, and then even a wagon road into and out of Death Valley in the Old West. But we're just about back to our vehicle, so I wanted to thank you for joining us for this Death Valley discovery video with myself and my friends Jordan, Elyscia, and Matt. And over the course of the last 2 days, we did 30.2 miles. 14 miles of that was backpacking. So quite a lot of ground we covered here in 2 days up Wingate Wash in the Owlshead Mountains. But as you saw, there was a lot for us to see and do here, including never-ending, ever-changing canyon, the most remote spot in Death Valley National Park, and then Wingate Slot Canyon, as well as seeing the views along Wingate Wash and checking out some things at the 478 mine. Take care, everyone.